Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Hightop Game Day. We've only got a few more of these left as we come towards the end of the season. Look, I know we like to hate each other and get mad at one another, but all this is going to come to an end very quickly here. Now, thankfully, we have bowl season. We obviously have playoffs, but some of our teams may not be competing in some of those games. So make sure you get in your fun while you can and enjoy it. We have an incredible last 2 weeks here. This week's a little quiet, I would say, from the games, but we've got some big ones that we're going to talk about today, and then also the future of how the SEC championship is going to work out. A lot of Michigan drama that we have to dive into. Interesting stuff here, boys and girls. But let's go ahead and say hey to the gentleman and we're going to have on the show today. Mr. Stephen Chad Hawley will be on a little bit later on today for a round of the table talk and talk Florida ball with myself and I. And then Ty will be talking about Alabama, of course, in the run that they are on. Gentlemen, good to have you. Happy to have all of you here. Ty, how you feeling today, Bubba?
Man, I'm just happy. It's one of those things where I know everybody likes the night games. I'm a little bit the opposite. I like Alabama to have that morning game because I stress out all day waiting for that game. At least if they play in the morning, I can enjoy my day. Win, lose, draw. I know it's not stressful, so I'm happy about that.
That makes sense. Steve?
Look, I love playing Northern Alabama every week. I don't really care what time the game is. I don't care if it's a nooner. I don't care if it's a 7:30 game. Hell, I'll be completely honest. I don't even know what time the game is today. I just know that we play Northern Alabama, and I get to watch a whole lot of other football and not be the least bit stressed. To Ty's point, the least amount of stress this late in the season, the better.
War of the ACC, am I right? Anyways, I'll get back to you gentlemen here shortly. But yeah, look, we have a jam-packed show, of course. We're going to talk about all those teams here in just a moment. So be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. Happy Saturday to all of you. And let's dive into Alabama with Mr. Ty. All right, Ty, how we doing, big guy? We got a big game coming up here, obviously, this week. It's going to be a juicy one. How you feeling?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. And listen, I think if anybody knows me, they've been around my channel, you'll know, even though Alabama's playing Chattanooga, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is a sleeper. I never look at a game like that just because we have seen the unthinkable happen. And Alabama's in a position where not only do they have to win out, dare I say they have to win out with style points. And what better way to do that than by beating up on a Chattanooga before you have an Auburn. And one thing I will say about Chattanooga is they have 3 wide receivers who are playing at a really high level. You have Jamoy Mays, who's sitting at 920 yards. You have Watley, who's sitting at, I believe, over 800 yards. And you have Sam Phillips at over 500 yards. So they're getting the ball spread around. Now, Alabama has a good secondary. I'm really excited to see that matchup. But I'm excited and hope to see Alabama put some style points up this weekend. They need it.
No, look, and that's something we're going to actually kind of get into a little bit later on, just asking about the future of Alabama and what their playoff, hopes look like as they go up against Georgia in the SEC championship.
Cool.
That's already locked and loaded. Look, I mean, I called it a few weeks ago. You were a little bit nervous, but here we are. It is interesting, right? I was hoping to have Jake on here to kind of rehash that because I think both of you picked LSU or liked LSU early on to control the West. And I think that was everybody's, consensus pretty early. Maybe not you as much, obviously, being a Bama fan, but Bama's obviously ran away with it and it looks like a completely dominant team. But this is kind of, we're back to the early 2017, 18 days where you have 2 massive powerhouses syncing up with one another. The difference now, though, there's a lot of other powerhouses that are in front of them that's going to make this, last few weeks here very interesting for Alabama. But you can't get over Auburn. You can't sleep on Auburn. They are a force to be reckoned with. They're on the move right now, tearing up on the recruiting trail. Still one of Florida Gators recruits this earlier this week. Jake picked them to go 8-4 earlier this year. Obviously, that's kind of where I always joke that's where everything started. And look, they've done everything right thus far to be 8-4. They went today against New Mexico State, who is an 8-2 football team. So it's not like there's some slouts that are just going to walk all over. Chattanooga's 7-3, so you're not going to just walk over Chattanooga as well. You should, though. And then, of course, they've got Bama in Auburn, right? So you got some doozy ones coming up here.
Yeah, and Jordan Hare is cursed. Like, just point blank period. That stadium is cursed. And if there are Georgia fans in this chat, you will instantly reconcile with what I'm saying. You remember what I'm talking about. Me as an Alabama fan, we have the kick 6. You have the juggle catch from the Georgia game wild things happen in Jordan-Hare. And look, I got to give credit where it's due, man. That Auburn fan base, even when they're bad, they seem to show up, right? Like they seem to show up, get rowdy, and they have improved. When we look at Auburn this year, let's look at the 4 games they've lost, where they lost to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M is incredibly chaotic, but at the very least, we could admit Texas A&M is very talented, and Texas A&M typically starts years off pretty good, and then everything falls off the wagon as the year progresses, which, wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where we are. They also lost to Georgia. They lost to LSU. They lost to Ole Miss. So the teams they've lost to are, by and large, good football teams, and Hugh Freeze has beaten Nick Saban twice. If you ask where Nick Saban and Alabama have had trouble winning, Jordan-Hare. And I don't think any Alabama fan can just overlook Auburn. They're playing really well. It's a rivalry game, so all conventional wisdom goes out anyways. And Hugh Freeze is a good coach. That rushing attack is doing some things over there. I can't wait for the Iron Bowl. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, look, that's going to be a great game, and I think Auburn is finding a little bit of a rhythm, like you said, which is always concerning. I believe Bama's going to absolutely steamroll them because they have to win with style points, like you said, in these last 2 games to give a true fight if they are to take down Georgia in the SEC championship. Right now, the way that it's playing out is because they're behind Texas and Oregon, who essentially we believe would win their conference championships as well. How do you jump them, right? How do you currently where Bama sits, just based on the math, how do you, as the committee, make that jump happen? Do you value that win over Georgia that much? I believe you could. I don't think they will.
Can I rant about the committee here for a second? Because something in their own rankings doesn't make sense. And you know me, man, my background comes from debate. So when I saw this instantly, I was formulating arguments. How in the hell is Oregon where they are, but Florida State is ahead of Washington? Now, I don't mind Florida State being ahead of Washington. That's not my contention. My contention is this. If the committee values Oregon so much that they're the number 1 ranked, 1-loss team, having only played 2 teams all year with a winning record, why isn't Washington ahead of Florida State, the team that beat Oregon, the team that the committee values so much? Washington beat them. The committee is telling us that Florida State's best win is against LSU. Well, I agree. LSU is a really good team. That's a really good win. I don't disagree with that. My disagreement comes with the committee's own argumentation, where you cannot live in a world where Oregon is the best 1-loss team in the nation, yet somehow Washington, who's undefeated, beat that team, and they're behind Florida State, whose best win comes against a multi-loss LSU team who's not in the top 10. That right there, that logic falls in on it itself. Texas should be ahead of Oregon. Alabama should be ahead of Oregon. And if you're asking me the order, I don't mind Florida State being at number 4. I think they're a really good football team. I just don't know how the committee can reconcile with putting Florida State there, then Washington at 5 and Oregon at 6, when they're so clearly valuing Oregon. And the thing that kills me, man, is whenever they talked about Oregon, they said, oh, well, they have the 1 win over a ranked team. And then look at where their offense and defense is ranked. Yeah, if I go play Bishop Sycamore 10 times a year, my offense and defense will probably be ranked pretty darn good. The difference is Texas is beating teams. Alabama is beating teams. Mm-hmm. Texas and Alabama are the only 2 teams within college football playoff contention that have 3 ranked wins per the committee's ranking, and they're being penalized for it. Texas and Alabama should both be ahead of Oregon, and that makes absolutely no sense.
Georgia will get its 3rd today if they were to beat Tennessee, right? Because they'll have Mizzou and
yes, Ole
Miss under their belt. Because Kentucky was ranked when they played them, I believe. So they already have 3. Kentucky was 100% because Kentucky was
undefeated. But they're not anymore. And I'm talking about college football playoff committee rankings. Bama has 3, Understood. Texas has 3, and Georgia will have 3 if they down Tennessee. Yeah,
gotcha. So, look, I think your point is very valid, and I completely agree with you. I believe that they don't really consider that win over Oregon. I think because of how close it was, I think we all – I think that, look, fair. I mean, I think, they play, 10 more times. I think Oregon gets 8 out of 10. That doesn't really matter, obviously, because they got it done. But I think that's how they're viewing that game, is if Oregon didn't lose it, right? They know if they play on a neutral site, which they will come here in just a few weeks, that Oregon should steamroll them. They're not even favored today. I think they feel pretty good about Washington losing it, and Washington hasn't looked very dominant. to be honest. Ever since now, I mean, they did their job at Oregon, but ever since that, they have been in a toes race with everybody they've played, where they should have handled business like Oregon has. FSU, in my opinion, which we'll have Steve to talk about that a little bit, I believe they haven't really dominated like they did at LSU. After week 1, I was on the top of the hill saying FSU is the best team in the country. There's nobody, it's them than everybody else, just because of how good they looked, because of the hype we had for LSU. Obviously, my opinion has completely flipped since we played out these last few weeks here, but they haven't really rolled by anybody either. Again, haven't had to. So it will be interesting to see how FSU kind of rolls into the playoffs. But we have more questions about that for Around the Top Table Talk. It'll be interesting to get your perspective, because you and Steve, honestly, it could be between both of your teams on who gets in come a few weeks from now.
Oh, if they're undefeated, they need to get in. I mean, you gotta take care of business. At the end of the day, as much as I love Alabama, you got to take care of business. And if they've taken care of business the whole way through, you can't penalize those young men for playing the game. You get what I mean? So, like,
sure,
if it's undefeateds need to go in. And I don't even mind Texas being above Alabama, even though I think the game would go differently if they played today. That's neither here nor there. It didn't go the way I think it would go today whenever they played, and that matters.
Sure.
That game matters. So it's a mess right now, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Nope, should be good. Ty, we'll have you back on in just a moment. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Alabama, ladies and gentlemen, set to play Georgia here just a few weeks in the SEC Championship. Has an easy road with Chattanooga today, but then again has Auburn in just 2 weeks for the Iron Bowl. Should be an interesting matchup. Should be an exciting one. Next week is going to be a hell of a week. A lot of upsets potential to happen. A lot of changing is going to happen in the college football playoffs as Michigan and Ohio State play. So next week is really where the Holy Grail is going to happen. But right now we got to get through week 12 before we can get to week 13. But without further ado, let's talk about the Florida Gators versus Mizzou. We're going to bring Steve on. He's going to ask me some questions to talk about that game this week. It's probably one of the bigger games this week, too. Obviously, being Gator fans, we're going to enjoy it. But Mizzou, it's one of those interesting games where they've creeped up into the top 9. Could they, if the world completely just falls apart in front of them and find themselves looking, on the outside looking in, maybe a lot would have to go their way for that to happen. But never say never. Let's get into it, boys and girls. Steven, Chad, how we doing, big guy?
My man. Very well, sir. Very well. You got a big game coming up here. I think every game on the schedule, the last 3 games were big games for Florida. How you feeling going into this one?
Out of the last 3, which will be LSU, Mizzou, and FSU, correct? This is my least comfortable game. I've been saying that for the last few weeks. I feel like LSU is one of those games where it's easy to get up for. It's always going to be a good one. FSU, I don't need to say anything about that. It's in the swamp. And then Mizzou, it's always been a weird game. I mean, it's like you're going out and playing at Mizzou isn't very exciting. They've came to our house. I remember I went to a game when it was Muschamp's last game. They beat us like 42 to something, and he ended up getting booed, and he got fired after that fact. So Mizzou's always been a weird one for me. Always got a weird gut feeling about them. And now they're kicking ass and taking names. They're my dark night at the beginning of the season. I told you that on Wednesday night, that I felt that they were going to come in and do some damage to the SEC East. And feels good being right about one thing about college football this year.
Well done there. Look, I will say this. I mean, the LSU game, I thought Florida played a hell of a game. The first 3 quarters of that game, albeit neither team really wanted to bring their defense, I thought Florida played extremely well for 3 quarters. The fourth quarter obviously got away from you guys a little bit, but there were some positives there. There's some things that you can look at going into this Missouri game that show that you can throw a haymaker just like the other team lining up against you. What are your 3? If you had to say 3 things have to happen today in order for Florida to win, to be victorious in this game, what are those 3 things?
In honor of Soto, you got to hit somebody. Got to lay somebody out, play some defense. That's going to be the biggest thing. I think offensively we showed we can keep up with a lot of the top tier teams. You put up 35, almost 40 points, you should feel pretty confident being able to get the W. Well, when you look on the other side of the scoreboard and you see 52 have been scored, it's kind of hard to get the W, right? So we got to hit somebody and stop somebody and slow down the run. We got to contain it. I think the biggest thing that we have to understand, it's like Spencer Rattler, right? He's going to do his job. Jaden Daniels, he's going to do his job. That's okay. But how do you contain it? How do you manage it? Don't let it get out of control to where you're playing from behind. That's going to be number 2. Number 3, just getting your playmakers the football. We get away from it too quickly, and then by the time we get back to it, it's too late. Eugene Wilson, we should be touching the ball 2 to 3 times a drive, if not more, probably more. Bordenham should catch the ball a few more times. Trevor Etienne has clearly been the number one back. I don't know if he looks so successful because he's able to sit out more, because Montreal has become more of the cowbell back. And so Trevor kind of comes in and has these quick explosive plays. I don't know, I'm not on the sidelines, but every time Trevor comes out of the backfield, it's like a rocket out of a cannon. I feel like if we're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Mizzou, we've got to match their game a little bit. And that's what concerns me the biggest thing as well, too, is they play the same type of game that we do, like a boa constrictor. Want to be able to control the game, run the ball, push it down your throat, has a quarterback that can manage the game, can sling it if they need to be. Unfortunately, we tried to play that against Kentucky and got absolutely slaughtered. So those things concern me.
Well, you guys held Devin Leary down pretty well. I think it was just the running back that was somehow not accounted for in the pregame planning throughout the week. Look, the Devin Leary part, you guys had nailed. You nailed that coffin shut.
I think that Devin Leary did it to himself. I don't think we nobody. You can put nobody out there. He's going to throw 9 for 20. Okay, that we had nothing to do with that. That's just Devin Leary being Devin Leary. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, going back to the Eugene Wilson comment, from the outside looking in, I agree with you 100%. The kid's dynamic. When he gets the ball in his hands, everybody kind of stops and pauses because you think something's big is going to happen. And going back to tweets of the week on Wednesday, your tweet of the week on the Wilson thing was absolutely hilarious. So I agree with you on making sure he stays relevant and you don't let him just kind of float off into the distance. Look. Florida has had a little bit of a rough week, and we're not going to rehash what I mean by that. But coming into this game, Billy's got some questions around him right now. Okay, obviously, like with the way the defense have played, just some of the personnel decisions, like ETN not getting on the field enough, in your opinion, Wilson wandering off in a high tide from time to time. Let's play athletic director. Okay, at the end of this season, if I put a name plaque on your door that says Scott Strickland and you're Scott Strickland for a day, what are you doing with the football team? Like, let's just make decisions as if you were the athletic director. What are the changes that you're making?
So I'm Scott Strickland for a day.
Scott Strickland for a day.
I resign. I let him know.
See, I was going to say university president, but that just seemed too top level.
Yeah, if I buy my duties, I would relieve myself of my duties, see the writing on the wall, and allow the fact that if something were to happen to Billy Napier, that I am in nowhere near part of the next discussion, because your last few have been blunders. We talked last night, Todd Golden, he looks fantastic on the basketball court. That's not going to be enough to save you. I even asked you, do you think it is? And you go, no, because the boosters like basketball. They love football. It is 100% true. So look, and here's where people make the argument. It's like, we just won a golf national championship. We just went to the World Series for baseball. We lost by a 10th of a point in gymnastics. Volleyball's ranked top 25 in the country. Women's basketball, they took a hard out last night, but they're up and coming. And then of course, men's basketball seems to be an absolute tear. I don't even start about swimming and other sports. So it's like, hey, we're in everything school. We are dominating in everything. Go back to what I just said. They love football. If they're not winning in football, nothing else matters, because FSU sucks at everything else. But guess what? Everyone feels that FSU is on an absolute mountaintop right now. And that's what matters most to these guys. So, yeah, I think if I'm Scott Strickland for a day, that's where it's got to be. You've got to take a step to the side. You haven't done what you needed to do, and allow someone else to come in. Maybe you go on LinkedIn and find somebody who's better suited for your position. Like, that would be the most suitable answer right now for how people feel about Scott Strickland.
See if you can connect. Okay, well then let me change the dynamic. If you're Billy Napier for a day, what changes are you making for the football team?
I also
you took that in a completely different direction than the Scott Strickland thing. That's not what I was planning for.
I also take a day and I still resign. No. Look, I think I would make some moves. If I was for a day, I would make sure if we had somebody that was committed or silently committed, that they make an announcement right away. We need to do some damage control, calm the masses a little bit. I would put some feelers out there that say, hey, I would go ahead and fire one of the coaches. I know there's going to happen more than likely. You have to, or this fan base is going to go berserk. Shoot a hostage. Get it over with. Let's move on. Let's make a statement. Let's show that, hey, we are making progress. We see the issues on the floor. Now, that's why I'm not Billy Napier, because he has his way of doing things. The questions for me, here's what I would do. Now, that may be a little bit too quick and maybe too, headsprung, but I believe just where we're at in the season, you see all these other coaches going, just throw it in with the mix at this point. You know what I mean? It's not going to feel that it's overdone or it's a knee-jerk reaction, right? Like when Sam Pittman fired his offensive coordinator, it felt like that was a last-ditch effort to save his job. Right now, where we're at in the season, when you see other teams firing their coaches, the reason is because season's over. I need to start thinking about next season already, right? I know I need to get to these last 2 games. Don't really care about them that much. Let's start fresh as soon as possible. That's what I would do if I were Billy.
I like it. Look, you've got 2 offensive line coaches, so technically, to your point, if you got to shoot a hostage in order to make some sort of sacrificial lamb for the fans to feel like that, they see blood on the altar, you could feasibly shoot one of them and still have an offensive line coach there
for sure.
Do their offensive line things.
Make a noise.
Talk to me about score predictions, man. Just not look. The one thing I will say: weather in the middle of Missouri in November. At night, not going to be a factor. It's a 61-degree
nice.
forecast at kickoff.
Nice
so
full day then. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's it. That you couldn't ask for much more than that. What are your score predictions here? What do you think we see?
I like 24-21 Florida. I'm not going to pick Mizzou. We all know the drill here. I'll keep it close. I'll keep it respectful. But I think Mizzou has the ability to kind of run away with it. I think it will be a little bit of a low-scoring game. It may hit the 30s, may hit like 31, 27, 28. Look, I think we have the ability to keep up with them. That's the one thing that does, excite me. I think offensively, we've shown over the last few weeks consistently that we have something there to keep up. That's what, fires me up. But we just haven't been able to stop anybody. Now, the one pro is they don't have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels or a KJ Jefferson that's, 6'6", 280, just going to run us over like a truck. They have a running back that will do that, but not a quarterback. So that changes things, in my opinion, a little bit. It's like, look, just put all 11 guys in the box and make them throw it, which Brady Cook has shown to slice you and dice you with his arm as well. But let's just one thing at a time. Let's get the run stop, and then we'll work from there. So, again, if I'm Billy for a day, that's what I'd figure out. But good stuff. I'm excited for the game. Steve, we'll have you back on here in just a moment. Appreciate your questions. Thanks for the grill sesh. That was fun being on this side of the table. No, that was good. That was good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Florida Gators, boys and girls. It's going to be a fun game here tonight, 7:30. Obviously, we're going to be doing our call-in show later on tonight. So if you guys are up, which I'm sure you will be sure to call in and vent. I know we had a lot of people calling in last time about frustrated they were, but we'll see how it plays out. Now we're going to move on to, I don't know if he's not Jake-ish. Not quite sure what name he's rolling with today. But it should be fun here. We're going to talk about Georgia and Tennessee, as it should be a big matchup. Let's get into it. All right, Jake Light, how we doing, big guy?
Oh, doing well. We put the pad on backwards, so we're ready to rock.
Jake Light. We really have Jake Crane on, and I think he maybe overslept or whatever. So Jake Light is stepping in to represent him this afternoon, and it's much appreciated. So look, Jake, Georgia's playing against Tennessee. It's going to be their last true matchup until the SEC championship. So this is their last opportunity where they can get taken down again. I said Mizzou has an opportunity possibly to find a way in, but everything has to go right. This is one of the games that has to fall for them, right? For it to happen, because then Georgia will need to lose again in the SEC championship. But again, I'm over here just like finding out like the perfect way. This Tennessee game, it's going to be in Tennessee. Now, Georgia has seemed to handle everything that's been thrown at them this year. Auburn tried to give them a little bit of a tease. Ole Miss, that they're going to come in and pull a massive upset, came out, scored early, then got sat down and said, hey, let Daddy take over. And were absolutely embarrassed after the fact. Mizzou honestly gave them a true fight. It was a hell of a football game, but Georgia, being Georgia, pulled away. I think Tennessee gets absolutely clammed here. I know it's a 9-point favorite right now. What are your feelings on it?
I wish that I was as good as Jake in terms of coming up with like movie quips and references, because I mean, he would knock this out the park. So I will be doing him a slight disservice, but that's why I'm Jake Light. You got to temper your expectations here, people. Here's the interesting thing. Whenever we talk about Georgia, how are you going to beat Georgia? Well, the blueprint has already been laid out. Now, it's not an easy blueprint. You have to be almost perfect. They're one of those teams that's typically not going to beat themselves, but you have got to make them respect the deep ball. It's largely the same synopsis we can have whenever we talk about how are you going to beat Alabama. You have to have them respect the deep ball, because if they sit on those routes all day, it's going to be a long day. I bring that up because at the heart of the Josh Heupel offense, that veer and shoot, they want to test you deep. The problem is they don't have the wide receivers they had a year ago to be able to successfully back off those Georgia corners enough to really do the damage. And I understand Georgia's offense has been playing a lot better. They are a great unit, but you still have a blueprint on how you can beat this Kirby Smart led secondary. I just don't think that Tennessee has it right now. I think that if they had these wide receivers to be able to test them, maybe they do it. But Kirby handled the veer and shoot really well. He did it with Ole Miss just recently, and these offenses are variations of one another. They're not identical, but they're still based out of the veer and shoot concepts. Kirby handles that pretty well. So listen, Tennessee hasn't lost at home in 2 years. That is a very tough place to go in and win that game. Georgia's playing different right now. I actually think Georgia covers this game. They're a 10-point favorite. I think they actually cover this one, man. I just think they're playing at a really high level. And I'm of the mindset, you just aren't going to convince me that the way you're going to beat Georgia is by running it down their throat. Right. I don't think that's a strategy that you look at and you're like, yeah, we're going to take that to the bank and we're going to win. Good luck with that. Because Kirby and them, that's what they want you to do. And not even to talk about the offense, which has been finding answers. Yes, they don't have Bowers. They still have Oscar Delp. They still have
back. I'm pretty sure he's back this week.
Is he back?
I think he was back last week, or he was at least in warmups with Ole Miss last week. So I'm pretty sure
incredible.
I'm pretty sure I don't know if he played last week, but I know he was running routes before the game last week.
That's incredible.
That is for certain.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because I know we talked about this before. A few years ago, Jalen Waddle went down with, I don't know if it was the same severity of sprain, but regardless, both of them had the tightrope surgery, and Waddle tried to come back into the national championship and was just a no-go. Now, everybody heals differently, but that would be a really fast healing process, which is awesome to hear. Yeah, if he's there, good luck stopping him.
He had 3 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown last week, so I think he was back. Unreal, dude. Unreal. I'm pretty sure
I was watching that game in the quad view, so I wasn't even I didn't even have the audio on. I was watching 3 other games just pinging back and forth. And so I really wasn't paying attention, to be honest with you. I should have known that. That's awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah, so they're at full strength. I think Josh Heupel's gone in a year and a half. I said they were lightning in a bottle last year. They proven to me that they were, and I just don't see a bright future for Tennessee. I mean, Mizzou has done better on the recruiting trail. They seem to have found more of a rhythm. And look, this is, to me, Mizzou has a little bit of lightning in the bottle this year, simply due to the fact that they brought 80% of their team back this year, which is why I was so high in them at the beginning of the year. In a time where the league doesn't seem to keep a team for a very long time. We talked about it with basketball too. It doesn't have that same, the blue blood colleges aren't the blue blood colleges anymore because they don't hold on to guys. It's one and done, right? For the Kentuckys, for the Dukes, for the North Carolinas, they're not building this team for 2 to 3 years. And then they're they can go on a run for a couple of years. Football is starting to run to the same thing. Losing guys either to the draft or to the portal. It's really hard to keep a consensus. We were talking about Florida football yesterday. We've had 4 quarterbacks in 4 years.
Yeah.
Three different coordinators in 3 years. Now, coordinators is a little bit different, right? So a lot of things have factored into that of just teams not being as competitive as they once were. So I think Georgia is one of those schools that hasn't lost anything. They continue to build and continue to recycle and just continue to keep moving up. They had a lot of big recruits that came in last year. They get in 3, 5, 6 snaps a game just to make sure they know what they're doing. They're playing against alongside guys that have been there for 2 to 3 years that will be leaving. The transition process in Georgia is absolutely perfect. But I think Tennessee could be on the sliding farther down than it appears currently. And that's just me being a hater, but it is what it is.
You know, I would have fought you on that before last week. But the way they lost to Missouri, and I get it, Missouri's a good team, but the arguments I would have presented to you last week is, well, the Josh Heupel offense and therefore the Josh Heupel scheme relies on verticality. They have a quarterback who's not hitting vertical shots at a high clip like they had last year. They don't have wide receivers. What they do have is a rushing attack and a defense that's been better. But what happened last week was embarrassing, quite frankly.
I mean, that Florida loss. Think about that Florida loss.
True.
I mean, they outnumbered us in every position: running back, quarterback, D-line, wide receivers.
I got nothing for you now.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think it was sold. I mean, they kind of called Billy Napier, used car salesman. I feel like that Tennessee team was a used car salesman. And Joe Milton is not a quarterback by any stretch. And I know they keep thinking Nico's going to be their Lord and Savior. Unless he decides to put on 20 pounds in the next 6 months, I'm not seeing him. Yeah, look, he like a JD Daniels took some time to grow into his position. That, in my opinion, is what Nico is right now. He could have a phenomenal offseason, but I'm not completely sold on him. He did look great in the Elite 11 last year. I do remember that. But guys like Dante Moore, who played at UCLA, who came in, those guys look much better. And then the quarterback, I can't think of his name currently, at Oklahoma, those guys look much better than Nico, in my opinion. Now, he wasn't far off, but not all of them can be great. But look, Georgia's got a big matchup. I don't think it's going to be close. I think everyone's trying to hype it up as much as they possibly can, with it, Tennessee being a ranked team. We're talking close because they have 3 losses. After that Mizzou loss, they should be out of it, but then they're like 22nd or 21st currently. They will be leaving the ranked status as of this week, and then they got Georgia Tech next week. So then it's just how do we get ready for Bama, which should be fun.
Yeah, and that's I mean, you got the 2 powerhouses on a collision course, and I can't wait for that game. That's going to be so much fun.
We'll have to figure something out to get you on for that. Maybe I can get you and Lou on for an SEC championship matchup. Yeah, that'll be a good one. We'll see I'll see what I can muster up. Jake Light, thank you, sir, for your comments on Georgia football, man. Appreciate you.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Shout out to Jake Light for stepping in there last minute to represent the Georgia Bulldogs and have us a great conversation. That was awesome. But boys and girls, again, smash the like button. Happy to have all of you here on this beautiful Saturday morning. We got one of these kind of big one like this left. Obviously, we have the championship games that we'll have, which will be an absolute blast, which honestly are going to have so much weight than they have had in the past years, especially if this last 2 weeks file out the way that we think they will. It's going to be one hell of a conference championship week, because you got ACC matchup, which could be a deciding factor if Louisville is able to take down FSU. Oregon does roll Washington. You're going to be having some head scratchers and some questions. If Bama takes down Georgia, do both teams make it in? If Texas rolls in the Big 12, how do we find a spot for them? Ohio State, it's going to be a blast here. It's going to be fun. But with that, before we get into that, let's dive into High Top Table Talk with the rest of the guys. Gentlemen, how we doing? Good to see all your beautiful faces once again.
Had to kick Not Jake out the studio.
Okay, good. Yeah, he's Jake Light's out of there. We'll keep on moving on with him, without him, but we'll bring you two in here, and I'll ask questions. I mean, Jake's obviously there. Maybe I should just change it to Jake Light. Do you want to change your hat around when I ask you questions and you answer it twice?
Sure.
Do you imagine he gives like a full another answer? Like
you know what? No, let's do it. I'll argue against myself. Or I'll try to.
I feel like I'd have to give Jake or Ty or Jake Light just extra points for doing double duty. You know what I mean? Like Steve wouldn't even have a chance.
I'm lost here, man. Like, I mean, I can set myself up for point counterpoint. I can contradict myself entirely.
His name says even lighter Jake. That's incredible.
I know. That's what I just.
That's awesome. All right, let's get into question number 1. This is a juicy one here. Okay. Ty, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, even lighter Jake. Let me get my scoreboard out. Let me get my timer.
So much.
Look, Ty, you said you love debate, man. This is gonna take you to the pinnacle of debate when you literally have to debate yourself.
No, we're not. The lightest Jake.
The only thing better was if there was like 2 podiums on a stage, and you literally had to like get done with your argument and run over to the other stadium. Maybe costume change or run to the other podium, costume change.
It's not the same, but in the debate I used to do, moot court, which is like a structured, simulated Supreme Court trial where they actually get in judges and lawyers. We would have to argue that something was a violation of some constitutional amendment, and then 5 minutes later, I would have to go into a different room and argue that it wasn't. So it's a flip flop.
You've been preparing for this your whole life. This is unfair.
Unfortunately.
All right, boys. So first question here. Is Harbaugh done? Is he going to move on from Michigan after this year? After the more negative news has came out as of yesterday, they fired another coach due to the fact that he was part of somewhat of the scandal. more and more news keeps coming out. Obviously, he agreed to the 3-game suspension, but that was just passed down by the Big Ten. NCAA still has a lot of work to do. This thing is going to get uglier before it gets cleaner. Lightest, Jake?
Yeah. No, I don't think he's done. And here's why. Because the Michigan fan base is emboldened right now. I mean, you look, he might as well be Serpico to those people. I mean, they are holding him in such high regard because of the way he's come through this. The Michigan fan base is more emboldened than ever. And I think a lot of people are more emboldened under Harbaugh. And a lot of it hinges on the fact that Connor Stallions at some level would have had to participate with the investigation in order to really implicate Harbaugh. And from everything I'm hearing, they were basically media trained on how not to do that. They were trained on what to say versus what not to say, even the players. And so even though common sense can tell us, yes, Harbaugh knew about this, unless you get direct implication, it's going to be hard to do anything. And I think right now he is more emboldened than ever. Those boosters are more emboldened than ever. They almost feel like everybody's attacking them. Oh, poor Michigan. I don't think he's jumping ship. And if he did, I don't know how many people would view it well.
Good stuff. Even lighter, Jake? You're up. Steve?
Oh, sorry. I forgot that we were, there's so many Jakes, you know what I mean? All right. So look, yes, Harbaugh is gone after this year. Okay. So he's already got NFL coaching experience. He's been to a Super Bowl. If in case anybody forgets, this is his second suspension within the same season. He started out the year missing a few games due to some COVID restriction violations, whatever the case may be. Now he just basically took a 3-game suspension on the chin, didn't really fight it other than a little bit of noise, a little bit of pushback. But for the grand scheme of things, it was almost like, okay, we see that we're probably going to be in a lot bigger trouble if we try to fight the 3 games. So now you're talking about a guy who's missed 5 games in a 12-game season. And look, the outside world, as much as Michigan has got their backs against one another, kind of doing one of those Game of Thrones scene style fights to try to keep everybody thwarted. You know, they got sticks while everybody else is in a cavalry circle around them. Eventually this thing's going to close in. It's going to close in on them, and eventually he's out.
Jake, you don't have to go again. I was just kidding.
Can I please?
Do you really want to go again?
Let's do it.
All right. 30 seconds, Jake Light. I am excited to hear what you're going to say, though. Go ahead.
All right. So absolutely he's gone after this season, and let's break it down very simply. Right now, the biggest thing with Jim Harbaugh is he hasn't been able to win the big games. Now all of that is called into question. All of his big wins are suspect. At the point when this investigation started, the major emphasis was that he can't down Ohio State. He can't make the college football playoffs. All of a sudden, they start dominating, and now all of this is called into question. He's going to leave Michigan not because of this investigation, but because it calls into question the very framework of the foundation in which they have laid that puts them in this position. Now all of that is suspect. He's going to go back to the NFL because he hasn't gotten the job done, and now it looks like he won't.
Bro, I always let him go over because that was incredible.
Just let the man cook. Just give.
Are you kidding me?
Put the ingredients on the counter and walk away. The man will make a souffle.
Flips the hat around. Oh, look, to be a good debater, though, you have to understand the other side to support your argument. So I understand it. Incredible. He took the lead with half the time. I mean, what are you gonna? Jake's not here, but the lighter version of Jake is still getting it done. He's gonna be impressed that
he's feisty as hell. Are you married?
I am.
Oh,
and she's Hispanic,
woman.
so
that's even more.
It's the Jewish me versus the conquistadors in this house, 24/7, 365.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
so look,
amazing.
what I was going to talk a little bit about it, but I don't know what else how I follow that up. Look, kudos to them for having, hey, if you could ever find yourself a guy like Connor Stallions, that guy is a ride or die, loyal mother effer, okay? Because he is just going down to the grave, taking bullet by bullet and not saying a word. That just shows, in my opinion, and also, too, following the interview last week of the interim head coach, just the emotions that he had, how great of a job Harbaugh has done in brainwashing this team in a good way. We keep using that word. That word has been used a lot more now with the fact that, Kirby kind of has alluded to that a lot about brainwashing the team to believe a certain way. And Urban Meyer with Swamp Kings. Look, it's a good thing. that they believe in him that much to get it done. And I almost want to raise the question that this is kind of off the point system here, that by him getting fired or suspended for these last 3 games is more detrimental for Ohio State than if he were on the sideline. If I'm Ohio State and Ryan Day, I want the enemy on the sideline. I want the bad guy standing there so we can get pissed about it. Because now, who are you going up against? They've taken away your armor. They've taken away your ammo to get fired up, because you're not going to blame the kids. They're already trying to say it's not the kids' fault or the coaches that are there, that they didn't know about it. So now everybody that's going to be there next Saturday, in a way, they're just a victim of a crime that they shouldn't even been a part of anyways. But Michigan now has all this ammo because their fearless leader is being attacked. So they're going to show up. They already have a common enemy, which is the rest of the world. Right? So they don't need any extra motivation because their guy isn't going to be there. And for the fact that the interim head coach was in tears over a measly Penn State team that we knew was never going to get it done, even though Steve thought they were going to get it done, and Brandon Walker picked him to win the whole damn thing, which is just complete disgustingness that you thought Penn State was back. Relax, okay? So is Miami. No, they're not. Is wild to me. They threw the ball 8 times. They threw the ball 8 times. There is nothing more disrespectful than not giving a Heisman, before the season started, a Heisman favorite candidate throwing the ball 8 times, and you still got your ass kicked.
That's pretty. Now, here's the only thing I would blame the kids. That was Ryan Day. Yeah, no, I would blame the kids. No, I agree. I'd blame the kids.
Look, my opinion, they're all guilty.
Yeah.
They're all guilty. They're all guilty.
Just for the record, they are complicit. They know the damn calls. And if you're no good and damn well that you're cheating and you are involved when it comes to the game, we're up. I know that this is a run to the left. How do you know that? Well, because we've cheating all week and we know what we're doing. You're complicit. So when it comes time for Ohio State to beat the dog snot out of Michigan, just because you don't get to look into the head coach's eyes when you do that nonsense handshake at the end after you kick their ass, it doesn't matter who you're looking at. You just know, we know what you know, and we still beat the hell out of you. And then I'd walk around and I'd just start tripping players.
It's like the Houston Astros.
You knew, right? You knew.
Give
like the Astros when they cheated, right? There's a few players that participated essentially in the cheating, right? When the Houston Astros players cheated. Because the pitchers, obviously, they didn't participate because they're not batting. But you damn well knew this shit was going on. It wasn't like you didn't know that they had lights and trash cans and shit. You're in the dugout. You think they're just banging trash cans and some musical instruments? Fuck no, you're cheating. Everybody knows. Everybody's guilty. I agree.
They damn for sure still sent their ring size though. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a 9 3/4. Go ahead and size me up, player.
Don't forget the 3/4.
But I didn't know.
And so before this all started, it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like, and it's starting to realize, like, bro, if you know what the hell is coming, I understand the whole mentality of stop it. I get it. But I mean, in baseball, like if you know a curveball is coming and you could sit on it and you just watch that pitcher's curveball for the week leading up to it or the 2 days leading up to it, and you know how it breaks and where it breaks. Oh, it's unbelievable. It's not even fair. So look,
can I give you an example? Though,
I would be,
man? I hated this argument that people would say when they were like, oh, well, you still got to stop it. Yeah, if you go to the doctor and you have a debilitating illness, they still got to cure you. It helps a lot more when they know it's pneumonia. But like, I don't understand this whole logic of you got to stop it. Sure. But are we going to pretend like it's not a massive advantage when you know exactly what to stop?
What medicine to give? Yeah.
Exactly.
You're not guessing what medicine to give. Great doctors, what makes them great is their ability to adjust quickly and figure out what it is. If every doctor knew what it was, it wouldn't take 8 years to become a doctor, because it would just be, here it is, and then here you go. But look, it's an interesting dilemma. Hey, don't forget about Michigan. We're going to swing back around. I saved it for the last question. It is a fun one, so don't go anywhere. All right, let's get back to it here. We got a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it was for good reason, so all good there. Even lighter, Jake, you're going to start us off here. This is a good one. We've kind of alluded to this already a little bit earlier in the show. Bama is able to beat undefeated Georgia, assuming Georgia wins the next 2 games, of course, in the SEC championship. Do they both make it? Steve?
You would be hard-pressed, depending on everybody else above them, you would be hard-pressed to see Bama jump 4 spots if everybody else continues to win out. Now, that being said, it does create a bit of a vacuum here. Georgia's non-conference schedule, which they actually have control over, has been absolute dog water. So if they take a loss, they should move back out of the top 4 because, again, outside of the schedule that was regimented for them, they did nothing to test themselves on the college football platform. Other conferences. Now, if Bama comes in, sweeps the leg out from under them, especially if they win convincingly, is that enough to jump a Texas team that already beat you? I don't think so. Is that enough to jump a one-loss Washington who only lost to a number 6 Oregon? Is that enough to jump a number 6 Oregon whose only losses to the team that they just got their retribution against in Washington? Like I just don't see how Alabama, as much as they can make a case, I don't see how they can logically say that they should jump those other teams.
Very interesting take there. I got some arguments that a reason I didn't give you more points. But I can't say it yet because I can't persuade the lightest Jake. So, Ty.
So yeah, let me go ahead and start. I think Alabama will make the college football playoffs, but I don't think 2 SEC teams get in. And let's break this down because Steven does have a point when he talks about how Alabama needs some help, but Alabama will be able to get that help inevitably. Georgia and Alabama are on a collision course. That means someone's got to lose that game. Then you have Ohio State, Michigan. They're on a collision course. That's going to drop someone out the top 4. And then you have Washington and Oregon. If Oregon beats Washington, they will have played 3 teams all season with a winning record, period. The games have to mean something. And if you have 2 one-loss teams, one of them has now beaten 4 ranked teams and down the number 1 team in the nation when they're on a 30-game win streak, Alabama should get into the college football playoffs. Yes, Alabama lost to Texas, but we have to look at everything as a book. A book does not begin and then end. A book has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in that journey, change occurs. And that's exactly what we've seen from Alabama.
Good stuff. Are you going to go again with Jake Light, or do you want to just end it there?
Love this. Oh, here we go. I guess that's your answer.
Yeah, he's got to change his name. Hold on. That doesn't count if he doesn't change his name. Like, this is incredible work here. Like, like it's Saturday morning. Like, College Game Day's not doing this. You know what I mean? Okay. They're like, yeah, no shit show. They can afford to get more people on. That's besides the point. Okay, let's not look at the logistics here. Why we have to do this? All right, let's not act like this is a great value game day. This is the real deal. We are competing with Big Noon Fox. Our numbers are right alongside them. Okay, it's game day, Big Noon Kickoff, SEC Network, ACC Network, then probably Sun Belt, and then it's Hightop Game Day. We're like right there. All right, we're just a few spots away from being.
Smell it.
Yeah, it's close. It's close. Next year's our year. All right, Jake Light, hit me.
All right, so if Alabama downs Georgia in the SEC championship game, will they both get in? No, and the reason is quite simple, because the committee doesn't know what the hell they're doing right now. They are giving credence to teams that shouldn't be where they are, and I don't think that's going to change. Guys, gentlemen, what we are seeing is an SEC fatigue. At the point where you have teams downing ranked teams, Georgia, who is on a 30-game win streak, had to beat Ole Miss, a top 10 team at the time, to finally get the respect to be the number 1 team in the nation. Meanwhile, Michigan and Ohio State are prancing around playing fairies, and they're being gifted number 1 ranks. Then you have Oregon, who has played absolutely nobody. No, the committee does not want to see 2 SEC teams, let alone 1 SEC team, and they're being as honest as they possibly can with it.
I can't. Like, Steve, how do you compete with that? He's not even using the full time.
I'm getting my ass kicked by the same guy twice. But they're exactly opposite counterpoints to each other. And I'm like, I'm just floating around here in the gray area with my 9 heads.
So, Steve, I think like my thing to you, you kind of hinted towards Georgia's out of conference schedule being weak, and it was weak. I do give them the benefit of the doubt because they had Oklahoma set on their schedule. That wasn't their fault. So it's one of those scenarios where we always argue for ACC that their schedule isn't their fault because they just play in the ACC. You can't help that the ACC is not as strong as other conferences. Same thing happens.
Why did Texas still play Alabama then?
I don't know. These are great questions. I don't know the reason they got rid of it though is because they're in the SEC. Maybe sure. because Alabama and Texas played the year before, so they had to complete that contract. In a way, the contract had already started. For this Oklahoma-Georgia game, it has never truly started, right? This would have been the first one they played. That makes more sense, where if you sign a 2-year contract, you can't play half of it and then not complete the rest of it. because it was an out of conference game because they are set to play again next year, I believe, due to the conference alignment. So I
feel like you could have taken that game and moved it to a neutral site so neither team got a home field advantage, played the one game instead of.
I think they should have played, but maybe because it was an out of conference contract that due to the new alignment, it for some reason voided it. But again,
that's what they pointed to.
You can't blame that on. I don't think you can blame that on Georgia. You can't blame that on Georgia. Is all that I'm getting at. The reason why it happened is beyond me. But do we hold them accountable for that? Look, if you're going to hold them accountable for their schedule, just like Jake Light, Trevor, which one it was, said that Michigan, Ohio State, they continuously play fairies. They have the weakest out of conference games, and then their conference is already a joke. For the most part, I mean, it comes down to 2 games a year for both teams every year. When we try to hype up Ohio State and Maryland, we try to hype up Ohio State and Wisconsin. Stop it.
You know, it's bad when Rutgers is who we're putting our faith in to maybe shake things up. That's the state of the Big Ten,
right?
Honestly,
like, come on, dude. Now next year, holy shit, buckle up, boys. It's gonna be a ride, dude. And that's also another reason you guys could have used for Michigan leaving, because his cupcakeness is now gonna be out the door with the likes of Oregon, USC, and UCLA headed into their division. It's gonna be wild to watch. All right, last question here, boys. This is a blast, man. This is a good time.
Are there 3 hats that Ty can wear? I mean,
yeah, Steve's not needed anymore.
I'll give you this.
Can you change your shirt or something?
I'm up at something. I mean, figure something out.
This is incredible, dude.
I'll slide this one down for the other one.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Let's see.
There's nothing light about Holly's forehead. I just went to read the comments real quick. This is incredible. You can't make this shit up. All right, let's get to the last question. Jake Light is first, by the way. So turn your hat around, change your name real quick, Jake, and then we'll go.
I'm fucking out of breath over here.
Working double time. I love it.
All right.
The famous words from this past week is Michigan America's team. Jake Light, hit me with it.
Well, I'm about to blow your mind because, yes, name me something more American than cheating and getting away with it. In the great words of Eric Cartman, how do I teach these kids? We need to cheat like Bill Belichick. Listen, when we look at all the great American empires, you're telling me they didn't cheat to get ahead? There's nothing more American than cheating to get ahead. It's synonymous, both in our economy and our political atmosphere. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. In the words of the great Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. And quite frankly, Jim Harbaugh was tired of being last.
It's not even close. It's not even close. It's over. It's over.
I mean, can I take a TKO? I mean, do I have to come out of the corner? Cut me, Mick. Cut me.
Oh, my goodness. I'm like, well, I'll let you go, Steve. Give me your best shot, big guy.
Jesus Christ. No, Michigan is not America's team. Let me tell you what's in Michigan that would represent America. Oh, no. Absolutely freaking nothing. Ann Arbor is a whore. That's the first part of this whole thing. You got Detroit, which is literally a walking armpit. It's, if you've ever been there, you're downwind of every horrible smell that you could possibly imagine. Look, let's be honest. Even the businesses that run out of Detroit that are headquartered there are trash. They're basically being overrun by not Americans. So let's be completely honest. That cannot be America's team because nobody in their right mind says, you know what we should do, honey? We should really move ourselves to Michigan and thrive in that freaking economy and in that weather. No. If there's anything not America, it's Michigan. They should just go ahead and secede to Canada now.
Secede to Canada.
I didn't like your answer, Steve.
I can tell.
I think you got too carried away with the state of Michigan, and I feel like you hated too much on state of Michigan coming from the Tallahassee, which is the armpit of Florida. Detroit is up and coming. All right, Detroit is the reason we have cars. All right, and Detroit Lions, they are bouncing back. This is in Cleveland.
Been to Detroit?
This is in Ohio.
Clearly not, because you're still alive.
We're talking about Michigan, all right, as a whole, not just Detroit. Cleveland, Ohio, I would have a little more reason to believe that, but to give that much crap for Michigan is unreasonable. Look,
there's a whole portion of their state that's not even connected to the state.
No need.
What are you talking about?
Which is even better. No need for Ty to go. Look, I love it. I couldn't agree more with Jake Light on the fact that I think they are America's team simply due to because they're America's team because what makes an American team great, like the Cowboys constantly claim, is you have a massive, just obnoxious fan base that supports you through thick and thin, no matter what nonsense you're doing, no matter how bad, no matter how outrageous what you're doing on the football field is. But then on the flip side of it, everybody hates you. Just even keel. It's the one thing that Americans agree on, like, yep, fuck Michigan, or yep, fuck Dallas. And that's where Michigan is currently. You have two evenly split sides, evenly healthy, debatable sides on where you stand. Clearly, you're on the wrong side of history this time, Steve, where Jake Light and myself are on the right side of history. I love it.
The lightest Jake has got something for Jake Light.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, Jake Light.
The lightest Jake.
Go ahead.
Listen, is Michigan America's team? Jake Light gave you this whole soliloquy about how cheating is synonymous with the very foundations, the bedrock of this great nation, if I will. And he's not wrong. But do you want to know what this nation was founded on? People who cheat and do it well. Michigan cheated and got their ass kicked by TCU. That's not American. That's loser mentality. I know Jim Harbaugh wanted to be if you ain't first, you're last. Well, guess what? Now you're cheating. You started the race 50 laps ahead, and somehow you started going backwards and you got lapped over and over and over again. Yeah, you're cheating, but you aren't doing it well. And that, my friends, that's not American. That's just subpar.
Unbelievable. Steve, your point's updated. You lost points when he was talking because of how great his points were.
I can respect that. I won't even argue with you.
That is a good point. When you
your
cheated,
point system, by the way, is worse than the college football playoffs in logic. I just want to point that
out. I agree. I think you're right. You got to cheat. If you are going to cheat, you got to do it better. But I don't know. I'm full blown go blue. I love it. I don't know what it is. I'm a big Portnoy fan, so I love the bet mentality. I love me some Tom Brady. I love where everything is at for Michigan right now, and that's not going to be a popular opinion. I know for college football fans, they hate it. It's cheesy. I think, or it's schemy or skeezy or whatever word that I'm looking for here. I think something should happen pretty atrocious to Michigan. I trust me, I do. But I also believe that. Look, I think the kids and the coaching staffs that are still there shouldn't have to, deal with it as much. So I think that's what's kind of cool. Look, we've had some weird, great leaders in this world, right? They've done some shady shit, but they're a great leader. They're a great leader. And I think Harbaugh has done a great job of leading that team, of having these guys bought in and believing that they can get it done. And with all the noise coming out, nobody's cheating anymore. So if Michigan can kind of punch you in the mouth, it kind of sets a tone of like, well, maybe they were cheating, but they weren't cheating that well, right? I don't know, but I like a good comeback story as well. So now they're like weirdly like the undefeated underdogs in a way, because everyone expects
they wouldn't be undefeated if anybody realized they were cheating the first 7 games. Why? For the love of God, did anybody ever see the beginning of their season schedule? Who has to cheat against East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State,
we don't know they
Purdue?
were,
Who in the world needs to cheat to beat these damn teams? What are you cheating for? If you can't beat those teams organically, you shouldn't even be here.
What makes it even crazy, but again, I think it gets bigger because yeah, you did. They were apparently selling the signs to other teams like Beamer, like Heupel, right? That's also being thrown around to manipulate the college football playoffs. That to me, I feel is like a little too much. Like you're doing a little too much to make this thing work in your favor instead of just win. You already have a cupcake conference. You already have a lot of the.
You didn't think the manifesto was too much?
What do you mean?
You didn't when you heard about the manifesto, that wasn't the line for you. I haven't ever heard about someone writing a manifesto and it gone well. Let me tell you what.
Wait, what was it? What was that?
Connor Stallions had a 600-page manifesto about how he was going to take over Michigan and lead the program into. Yeah. Usually when people write manifestos, you need to watch that one. They need to be on some kind of watch list.
A small armory behind it. Yeah.
He wrote a manifesto how he was going to be the head coach.
Yeah, in the future, not like do a coup Auburn style against Harbaugh, but like at some point he was going to take over and be the head coach. And he
wrote a 600-page manifesto.
Not well, but he wrote it.
You read
probably
it?
cheated.
No, I wish.
He read it off somebody else's paper.
You didn't read it. You didn't read it.
No. I'm just imagining that it's not written well.
So how do you know there is one? You heard about it?
No, that came out in the investigation.
That's true.
So, like, I guess that's that we're trying to just point to the fact that this guy's crazy. Is that what that's being used for? Like, just like his mind, his
crazy
his
is a
mental health,
spectrum, but
his mental health. Look, I think they're going to use that as a reason to play. Like, hey, this guy clearly wasn't mentally stable. He's over here writing manifestos of how he's going to take over the world. Clearly, we had no. Why would I have a guy on my staff that plans to take over me? Harbaugh's going to be scot free with this. He's going to get out of this. You see that, right? You realize this, right?
I mean,
little do stallions know that he was Pinky to the brain. He was not the brain. He thought he was the brain. He was Pinky when it was all said and done.
So Brendan says what the college football should do is ban Michigan this year and put JMU in. That this way we have integrity and we just show how little the guys belong in college football. They won't do that. They're not going to do that because of how big of a brand Michigan is and because of all the other schools that are connected to this so-called scandal. That's why I truly believe where Michigan and Harbaugh are going to scoot their way out of this, that the worst that's going to come out of this is probably a 3-game suspension for the rest of the year, and then maybe a few more starting next year. But I believe that's as far as it goes because of how many people are connected to it. It's like, hey, we can't take down the whole mafia with this. Like, that's what they're going to realize, and it's going to be brushed under the rug. I truly believe that. And JMU, yes, will be on the outside looking in because that's where their integrity lies of we can't break our rules unless you're Michigan and you're bringing us millions and billions of dollars. Look, I know that's on a pop. Go ahead.
I do think, though, he needs to be given some raise for every time he had to scout Iowa. Like, they sent him to scout
with a straight face.
Iowa. Look, he could have just written in, they're not going to score, period.
And kudos to Harbaugh for making the Michigan-Ohio State game, which is already an incredible game, which is already an incredible rivalry.
True.
That much better.
True.
Because everyone in America is going to be tuned into that game at noon next weekend. Everybody. You thought the TCU Colorado was the most watched game of this year. That will be the most watched game in the last decade, especially if it comes down to the wire or a late minute field goal for the win. You mean to tell me that your mom's going to be watching, Steve? Okay, that's how intense this thing's going to be. Everybody is going to tune into this bitch, which, again, America's team, proving the point that they are. Yeah, Colorado got smoked. Colorado got embarrassed.
If Harbaugh was smart, he would do an Eventbrite for like a live watching party and just donate the money to a charity to try to get some goodwill back. Could you imagine the watch party?
If Harbaugh did exactly like, hey, come watch the game with me. Oh, I would go. I would
$50 entrance, all whatever, all you can eat, drink, whatever, you have some food catered in, all the money goes to charity. They have those big giant inflatable screens, you know what I'm talking about? They put like 7 or 8 of those puppies out, this big nice field, you bring your own lawn chairs, BYOB, $50, all the money goes to charity. There'll be more people in the Eventbrite watch party than there would be in the damn stadium.
What did you change your name to, Jake?
Oh, the diaphanous, Jake. I have a thesaurus next to me, and I'm just cycling through synonyms for lightweight.
Yeah, I was like, what the?
So, yeah.
Okay. I was like, what is that word? Oh, Lord.
Hey, listen, this is a college football show that, to your point, where else are you going to get a word of the day? The word of the day is day.
Did we just bump Sunbelt? Did we just jump Sunbelt in viewership because of that, you think? Because of our word of the day segment? 2 words of the day.
Equality for sure. I can't imagine there's any team in the Sun Belt, any coach in the Sun Belt that knows diaphanous.
Hey, easy. That's
I'm going to hit y'all with superfluous syntax.
Take it easy. Money goes, what do y'all think about CJ Stroud saying Michigan only beat him twice because Harbaugh cheated?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. If I was a player, I'd probably feel some type of way. Whether that's 100% the truth or not, I just put myself in his shoes and it's like, okay, I grinded every day for years. I woke up, I worked my ass off. I went to the practices. I was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation and I never climbed this mountain. And now you're telling me there's a chance they knew every play we were going to do.
I wonder if there was a light bulb moment for some of these players, especially CJ Stroud, right? Obviously, who's reading the defense, where he's like, he went to the sideline, was like, it feels like they know what's coming.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that would be amazing if one of them came out in an interview, but like, it's kind of too late now, right? if one of them would have said something maybe like right after the game, just out of feeling like, yeah, it just felt like they kind of knew what we were doing every step of the way. This comes out, it's like, yeah, we did. We knew exactly what how you were gonna piss this morning. That's how dialed in we were. Because you can feel that.
So Gossamer Jake you're a legal guy. You know, you can take a couple of different stances here. Is there any type of a civil case that a player could bring against Michigan? Because let's be honest, look, the Nissan commercials, the Heisman House Nissan commercials, where they have, Heisman winners. If you're CJ Stroud and you had to play against a team that has openly admitted to at least acknowledge the fact that there was a cheating scandal, and you lost football games that could have had an impact on whether or not
Heisman, right?
Right. Well, I mean, Caleb Williams won it, but is there any downstream potential financial impact that these players could have experienced due to the fact that they lost against a team that was openly cheating?
So actually, it's crazy you said this. That's a fantastic question. I had no idea.
Put those points on there, Shelton.
No. I just Googled it. And back when the Astros won, Mike Bolsinger sued. And I'm trying to figure out if it was actually heard. But if it was actually heard, then that creates basically the landscape for a suit to be opened, because you're dealing with commonalities, right? You're dealing with cheating. You're dealing with something where CJ Stroud could reasonably say that he was affected. Like, he could reasonably say, oh, well, I could have been the number one pick in the draft. I could have been this. I could have had a Heisman. I could have had this much finance. Now, proving how much financial gain is going to be tough. I'd be fascinated to see, but there have been suits in the past whenever cheating allegations happen in civil court. So there is some level of standing. How it would work, I have zero idea.
Because they went, let's say it flips. Ohio State wins that game. They win the Big Ten championship. They then play TCU in the Final Four. They smoke TCU. And then, again, they lost to Georgia by a field goal. Who knows at that point how Ohio State's feeling? He could have been... It is so effective. He could have been a national champion. That's how much.
Well, what about the school? The school could probably have that same argument, right? That the school was affected by the financial fallout from not being in the national championship due to the cheating and what that looks like. You see what I mean? Like, I think we're looking at this on the surface level, and we're all kind of talking about the game on an individual basis and what that means. But to start looking at what that has impact-wise financially for an institution and for the individual players, I don't even think we've scratched that surface yet. It's obviously early, but I think there's going to be just layers of this that are years from being over.
And the NCAA does nothing quickly. I've always stated, if everybody wonders how we got NIL and why NIL was rolled out so poorly, just look at the timeline. NCAA versus Alston happened in 2020. Justice Kavanaugh basically takes a huge ass gun and aims it at the NCAA and says your entire structure is suspect. That's important because that's not why they were at the Supreme Court. They were there to look at something very specific, and Justice Kavanaugh basically took away the microscope and said, no, let's look at your entire organization. You fail basic antitrust laws in the United States. And he said, and I quote, you cannot run an organization off the theory that you don't have to pay your workers a fair market wage on a theory. And so 10 days later, all of a sudden, the NCAA figured out how to do NIL. It was 10 days after NCAA versus Alston. All of a sudden, they can do NIL. The problem is, states like Florida, states like Alabama, they had passed NIL legislation because they assumed it was coming. The NIL legislation that they passed was overly intrusive. And what the NCAA did is they didn't put any stipulations on NIL. They basically said, here's the wild, wild west. That's why states like Texas were able to form these collectives. And then you saw the legislature branch of the Florida government come back together and say, hey, we need to rewrite these laws. Alabama, they had to rewrite those laws. So the whole first year where NIL was unveiled, Florida, Alabama were not on equal playing fields as other states because they had state laws which kept them from playing the game the same way other states were. NIL is a mess. It's great. It should have happened a long time ago, but the way they laid this out is a mess. I also want to say this because Muddy has a good point. He says, when he says, does Aiden Hutchinson pancaking his offensive line and sacking Stroud 5 times count as cheating? Well, Muddy, if you played along the defensive front, you're usually taught engage and peek. read and react. If you know that it's a pass, you don't have to read and react. You just react. So yeah, it takes quite a bit out of it. It makes it quite a bit easier. Like 100%. Yeah, 100%.
You don't think you just go.
Yeah,
Hey,
you just go.
Jake Light, Gossamer Light, Diophimus Light, whatever the hell your name is today, Jake. You're dialed in today, and I love it. Let's do this last question, and then we're going to let Multiverse Jake here do his closing thoughts. Do y'all think FSU's rivalry should be played on a neutral field? I'll let Ty go first, being the participant in this game, and then Steve, and then I'll go.
Yeah, before I go, Muddy does make a really good point here to retort. He says, I get that, but at the same time, Michigan's players are loading up the NFL rosters and killing it in the league. And you're right, Muddy. You're right. Look, don't get me, they're playing great.
Sure.
You're 100% right there. It is a difficult conversation to have, no doubt about it. Should it be played on a neutral field? Oh, I don't know. In theory, I love when these games are on neutral fields, but at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, I'm not inundated in the rivalry like y'all are. I can imagine that if it's bouncing back between Florida and FSU, that's great for both institutions, right? Like, I think that as much as we love the Red River rivalry, it's great because it has been that way forever, right? Mm-hmm. That they meet at the Cotton Bowl, the Texas State Fair is there. So it's a little bit extra. I think that if they were just to make it right now and they were to say, okay, well, this is now, we're going to change the way we do this. It was played, flipping back and forth, and now we're going to do it in Jerry's world. I don't know if it would have the same impact. It's kind of the same argument of moving the college football playoff games with the expanded playoffs from the neutral site games to having home games. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing y'all's take on this.
Interesting. Look, for a college football fan that is like that believes in some of the traditionalism of the game, the traditional concept of Florida, Georgia playing in Jacksonville is just embedded in my mind. It is just the way that it is supposed to be. The stadium is split, red on one side, blue on the other. The teams come in, they see RV City. They the city starts filling up on a Wednesday afternoon with RVs and the parties that go on for days. That to me is traditional football. Also to me, traditional football is Florida State going into Gainesville wearing garnet pants and white tops, and Florida coming out in some of their old school traditional stuff in the blue jerseys and the orange pants that make it look and feel like it was 1970s, early 80s football. That's just what it feels like. In the same for when Florida comes to Gainesville, you got the war chant, you've got, the garnet, the gold, and of course, the look and feel of those two games being in each other stadium goes to a core of me that feels like that's the way it's supposed to be. Would I go to the game if it was in a neutral site? Like if they decided to play it in Jacksonville, kind of level ground? Sure. It just wouldn't feel right in that scenario. I know that's an intangible that you really can't try to explain to somebody who doesn't have a real vested interest, but that just doesn't feel college football to me.
I think you're spot on. It's hard to explain it because it's a feeling. Like Florida, Georgia, like, hey, that works. Like, yeah, it works. It's worked for the last 100 years. Like, we don't know any different anymore. And I think like just how they're located, it works. It just I think there's something special about it being the last game of the year, and you either go into somebody's house or somebody comes to your house and you have an opportunity to upset them in front of either your fans or their fans. Makes it special. That Florida Georgia's in the middle of the year, it doesn't have the same impact. Also, too, that would make Florida having two games that are not at home, which is dumb. That's just stupid in my opinion. You're taking away another game to be played in the Swamp. Why would you ever want to do that? Why would you ever want to get rid of playing in the Swamp? And that's the one thing I would like for Florida Georgia. That would be cool to see Florida Georgia in the Swamp, but it would be weird to me. And that's how I would feel watching the Florida. I would never even think of that. It disgusts me to think of that. They're like, where would it be played? Like Jacksonville? No, like that's just you're sleeping with our. That's like sloppy seconds for FSU. Like that's Florida Georgia's home. You don't want to play there. Orlando, the fuck out of here, dude. I'm not gonna go play football in Orlando. You saw how it was for LSU and FSU. Shit sucks. Like there's never been a good segment that's gone to Orlando and had a great football game there. Like UCF is working on it, but I don't think football and then think Orlando. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. So there isn't even a good neutral home for these two teams to even meet up to where it would make sense. Like sure. Logistically, like driving wise, okay, but that's not football to me. at in those places. So horrible take there, Seminoles for the win. I more so just wanted to give him shit. It would be awful. But Gossmeyer, Jake, give us your closing thoughts, big guy.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be a wild week. Oregon State and Washington, I think that's the game you all need to be keyed in on, because Oregon State needs to be playing spoiler, and they have 2 opportunities to really shake up college football. I have a feeling they're absolutely going to do it. They have all the opportunity playing Washington and then Oregon. Other than that, just a great week of college football games, and gets us into next weekend, which is going to be wild.
So real quick, my Mizzou prediction. Keep dragging this along, because I'm not crazy, right? Like Georgia has to lose today. Number 1, Washington has to lose today. Number 2, FSU would have to lose in the ACC championship. But even then, I mean, they might have a 1-loss FSU team could still get in over a 2-loss Mizzou team. Bama would need to beat Georgia. Texas would have to lose to Texas Tech. It could happen. If I'm Mizzou, I'm over here thinking like this shit could happen. A lot has to go perfect. Like it has to be perfect. I would love to see what the percentage is. Oh, hold on. There actually is. There's an app. Hold on.
On what the percentage of chance it is that you can get to the playoffs.
Yeah, like there's a predictor on ESPN, and you can plug in like, okay, like if they win this week, so and so. Okay, so right now, choose one team. So they've got. Hold on, let me share my screen so you guys can see this. If you got to go, Ty, let me know. I'm sorry, I'm kind of dragging this on a little bit.
No, you're good. You're good.
Ty's got to go, but
Jake's good.
Can stick around.
All right, so let's do. So here's the predictions. Look, FSU has the highest percentage of making it right now, which is crazy. Not crazy, but just all things considered. Like Oregon State having a 1% chance, and they're an 8-2 team, right? Louisville has a 2% chance. So I guess if we select a team, let's see how this works out. Wins out. Does Louisville win its title conference? Yes. So 25% chance if they win out. So based on this number here, I would assume that they don't even believe. Okay, here we go. So this is their path. Okay, who else do we want to do? Pick another scenario. What do you want, Steve?
Do FSU if they lose the ACC championship.
Okay, 1 loss. Hold on. I guess I need to do wins out because.
Yeah, wins out.
Hold on. We'll just do Florida. Does it win its conference title? Let's say yes if it loses to Florida. Yeah, we'll just do that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So a 42% chance. All right, so you're thinking there's no way if they lose their conference championship that they take an L there. So wins out. You lose to Louisville. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's a way bigger difference. That's crazy. Okay.
So honestly,
so we got a better shot at losing to get in by losing to Florida and winning the ACC than we do flipping that scenario around. Let's do Alabama.
Let's do Bama. You ready, Ty? So wins out, of course.
Let's do it.
And they have to win the SEC championship, right?
Oh yeah.
Only 66.
Interesting.
Now let's do Georgia, right?
Yeah,
so Georgia wins out, but
wins
they
out.
lose. They lose.
Yep.
Does it win its conference? No.
Man. So that's almost just drawing a line down the middle. If Alabama wins out and wins the SEC.
Look at that. So if Oregon,
oh boy.
Wow.
That's going to be a travesty. Oregon will have played a schedule where they will have played 3 teams all year with a winning schedule. That's it. And will make the playoffs.
So look, week 12 games that matter. Look at this right here. These 3 games are where all of it lies. It's crazy that I keep saying it, bro. They piss me off that they lost to freaking Pitt. Like imagine, I wish I could like rearrange this. Like Louisville doesn't lose to Pitt. They're a top 5 team. They're 6th. They're behind Washington. They're behind Washington. And then that would increase FSU, I would imagine, as well, too.
For sure.
So what was FSU if they won out? Did we do if they went out? We didn't, did we? I want to see if they went out.
They have to be in. They have to be in if they went out. There's no
We didn't do that. We didn't do that, though, right?
No.
We did them losing the...
Okay, well, let's do that. Okay. All right. So you're good.
All right. I'll sleep better tonight.
Yeah.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, because there was a lot of obviously reason. Look, let's do this. I want to see Georgia if they went out because you guys were a 19% chance of winning it all. Okay, 26
greater than 99%.
meaning they are in, my friend. So 26% chance of winning. Then who has the highest percentage? Let's do of winning the championship. That's what I want to see. One's out, yes. Wow.
34% on the
So they believe Michigan's the best team in the country. Then let's see Ohio State then. That's crazy. Wow.
Also 34%. Okay. What they have for Georgia?
23 or 26.
If they win it. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and let's do Oregon.
21%. Like Gossamer Jake's probably pulling his hair out thinking that they have a 21% chance of winning the
So
the
Oregon
Natty.
State, if they went out, which they would beat Washington today, but they would make
Oregon.
Oh, they would beat Oregon.
No, they would beat Washington today, Oregon next week if they went out, and then if they would beat either Washington or Oregon again, it'd be Washington in the conference championship. That'd be 3 unbelievable wins, bop bop bop, like in a row. But they wouldn't make it. But it'd be wild.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Look, 14%.
It'd be so wild.
This is actually pretty cool. I wish I could pick Mizzou. They must have. It has to be less than this. Clearly.
Do Texas. What if they went out?
Good call. Wow.
Oh wow. Okay. Man, Texas has got to feel pretty good about that. I mean, that's a legit argument at that point. If they win out all their games, sitting at what 6, 7? They're 7 right now.
So if let's say Ohio State won loss, which team is Ohio State lose to Michigan? They don't win their conference title. They don't make it. Is it possible? Oh, they didn't play enough games, so they didn't make it. Is what I had to click. Hold on, that was weird. Like
That's the first time I've seen that.
Look at that!
Holy crap!
So wasn't that higher than that's higher than Bama, I think, or higher than Georgia if Georgia was to lose the SEC championship? Or am I wrong?
Bama was 66. Georgia was 63.
60. Yeah, they were in the 60s.
But this they don't even play in the championship, and they have almost. I mean, it's 20% less of making it.
Muddy said, "Dude, James Madison. They're not on it, Muddy."
I can't. Only
I know.
This is gonna be a wild ride here, boys. It's crazy that Oregon State's has a potential possibility that they're in
this
there.
This is hat on the table for them. You know what I mean? Like we made it. We're one of the top 10.
Think about this though. So Florida got a lot of shit last year for getting clapped against Oregon State. Now look at these motherfuckers. Right? Like that wasn't that bad. Like that game should have never happened, to be honest. Let's be real. We talked about this, Steve. You guys should have played Oregon State. We should have played Oklahoma. That was a complete travesty, which makes it even look like more of a joke. The fact that a 6-6 team played a 9-3 Oregon State and a 6-6 team played a 9-3 FSU. Like what are we doing here? Pathetic. Like what does it make any sense?
Yeah, but they didn't have DJ Ukulele last year.
Okay, so he was at Clemson. So they had one missing piece, but it wasn't like they were that far off. If you're trying to tell me that DJ made them a 2-loss team like that, just that much, no, they were a good football team, and the Pac-12 was thick as it is this year. All right, guys, we drug this on, which was fun. I appreciate you guys being patient. I think that was a fun little exercise. We'll have to bring that up next week because more things will happen next week that will adjust those percentages. We'll have more of an understanding, I think. Maybe not. We'll see.
Or less.
Or more sense. All right, guys, you be good. I appreciate you. I'm going to close it down. Thank you, Ty. You can log off if you need to. But Steve, later, guys. Love you. Appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you guys go follow Ty at Around the... what does it say? What is it?
Around the Table Sports.
I got Hightop Table Talk, Around the Table Sports. I messed that all up. He's doing incredible content. Did you hit 20,000 subs yet? I know you're close.
Yeah, we hit 20,000.
Let's go! Look at this guy. Congratulations, my man.
Thank you.
Well done. That's an incredible feat there. We're trying to catch you, big guy. I don't know if we're going to.
Rapidly approaching.
We're trying to get there, big guy. We're going to get there. Hopefully, we're 20K by the end of the year. That's the goal. That's going to be tough, but that's the goal
easy
for
money.
us. That's the goal. I appreciate you guys. Boys and girls, have a great Saturday. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to us ramble on for an hour and a half. Much appreciated as always. Happy Thanksgiving. We will not see you guys until next Saturday. So you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Tell your family that you love them. We're going to have a good time here on Wednesday night. So if you guys want to come back by and tune in with us, please do. Without further ado, boys and girls, be good. Love you. Sleep tight and let the bugs bite. Peace.